G'day everyone, and for those who've come in late, you're listening to Expand the Phantom podcast.
He washed ashore the sole survivor of a shipwreck, and upon the skull of the man who killed his dad, he said, "I'm mad, I must eradicate piracy, injustice and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die." The Phantom, the ghost who walks. The Phantom, enemies beware. The Phantom's always there, but you won't find the Phantom. He fights.
Hello, we are the Chronicle Chamber team, and this is Expand the Phantom podcast. Our website is chroniclechamber.com, and you can contact us via our email, which is chroniclechamber@gmail.com. You can also subscribe to us via YouTube, the iTunes, and all the various Android apps. Now, this is episode 210. Now, very excited about this one. We are going to be chatting with Jeff Parker. No, it's not my brother or family relative. It is Jeff Parker, who is the writer for the famous King's Watch saga. So before we hand over to Jeff and learn a bit about Jeff, let's introduce the guys who are joining us today. And we have... I was about to say Stephen, he's finished his sneeze, and Dan, how are you, gents?
Yeah, I'm good, Jim. Good to be here, and I'm really looking forward to today's conversation because I enjoyed reading King's Watch when it first came out. We tried to tee up a podcast with Jeff at the time, and it fell through at late notice, and we just, for one reason or another, have not got back to it. So I'm really excited to be talking to Jeff today, and it was a real delight to dip back into the comics. Well, I'm sure we'll talk all about it, but not usually my favourite fare, King's Watch type stuff, but I did enjoy this.
Stephen, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you, and I'm looking forward to the chat as well. Yeah, and yes, I've been brushing up on my King's Watch. It's been a few years since I visited this universe, and I'm looking forward to chatting with the fellow who started it all.
Now, I don't know, so we've all read it and we've done our homework. Now, I enjoyed King's Watch going back over it and reading it. The second part of the series, I didn't enjoy as much.
I think King's Cross.
The King series, King's Cross, I did not enjoy it as much. King's Quest, but I really enjoyed King's Watch. That was still one of the better series, probably in the last 10 years or something.
I think at the time we all thought the same thing, that it started off quite well, and then as it progressed, the quality dimmed, or things happened that we didn't like.
Yeah, maybe that's more of it. Things happened that we didn't like, hence we didn't like the series.
Well, when I dipped into it again, obviously for today, I reread the 5-part King's Watch, and basically I went back and read the parts of the Dynamite series that Jeff Parker had written. I thought there was no point reading the other stuff. So Jeff wrote the original King's Watch, that first 5-parter. Which was back in 2014, I think. And then I think came King's Quest, which was by a couple of other authors, Acker and Corson, Ben Acker and Heath Corson, I think. And then we went into the King's Cross series, and we got one called Flash Gordon King's Watch, which was Jeff Parker again. So I read through the Flash Gordon King's Watch series again. And I liked what he did with what he was left with at that stage. And that's one of the things that I want to ask him about, because by that stage we had Jen come in as the third type Phantom. We'd gone a long way from where he had left the Phantom as a character. And I'll be interested to hear how he was able to pick that back up again.
I'm sure that will be one of our first questions. So without any further ado, let's welcome Jeff Parker. How are you, sir?
I am great. Thank you for having me on Chronicle Chamber.
No worries. Thank you for joining us. So to start off with the podcast, we were just wondering if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you grew up, where you live, your age or your age range, and then we can just kind of go from there.
I am super old. I'm just like, I'm as old as probably the Phantom was in our series in my 50s. I'm from the southeast of the United States, North Carolina. I'm trying to think of a frame of reference. That's where the Wright brothers flew the plane. That's mainly if anybody bothers to recognize us around the world, that's the one little detail they get, and then they move on. But I now live. I was, I was a English literature major in college, and I was an artist the whole time, but I didn't major in it. I started to, and then realized they weren't going to teach the kind of stuff I liked. So I just did that on my own, and I did comic strips for the paper, and I went around and showed my work at comic book conventions. And I got to meet people like Al Williamson and all these Mark Schultz and all these artists I really admired when I was very young, and eventually started kind of getting in anthologies, free work that way until I found paying work. Then the 90s sort of had a speculative bubble, you may remember, where everybody was really just buying these comics to save them and supposedly sell them, and they all lost money. And then it shrunk down very small. And I went out to Los Angeles and I worked in animation for a little bit. And then I did storyboards. And while I was doing that, I worked on my graphic novel, The Interman, that I self-published. And after that, people started hiring me as a writer. And it was funny because pretty quickly, no one remembered I drew anymore. That's the way it goes. Everybody's got very short memories in entertainment. And then in the next 10 years, I was working very steadily for Marvel. And then I sort of went over to DC and I worked around all in different places and started working more for Dynamite. And around that time was when before then I'd moved up here to Portland, Oregon, which is in the Northwest. And anyway, editor Nate Cosby had called me one day and said, "We've got a bunch of new properties at Dynamite that we're able to do now." And he goes, "I want to send you a list and you tell me what you're interested in." Now, the Phantom wasn't actually on the list. The list had a number of things, a lot of good stuff, but the one I zoomed right to was Flash Gordon. And I said, "Flash Gordon, I've got Flash Gordon opinions. I've always had an idea for Flash Gordon." And, I started telling it to them. And then they came back with, "King Features loves this," but they were wondering could we start off with a bigger event that has Phantom and Mandrake in it too. And see, I was all excited about doing a small cast. And then it's like, "Oh, you want me to do a great big event?" And I was like, "Actually, yeah, sure," because I was excited. These are the archetypes that pretty much all comics comes from, is those three. The Phantom. It's hard to think of what other hero might have a big cave home base with a butler, and helps him fight crime, and even a dog. Wolf, excuse me. And of course, Mandrake influenced Doctor Strange and every other magical character there is. So I was like, all right, this is actually kind of neat. I'm sort of like, and I went back and reread some old stuff, and I was like, oh, this is good. I can really kind of sort of get back to the basics with these characters. But then I ran into should I even be talking about the Phantom at this point, or am I supposed to be talking about just whatever I do or something?
Keep going.
Keep going.
Okay, well, anyway. Yeah,
We're not going to stop you talking Phantom.
Now that it's on my head, I keep looking at all your Phantom pictures in the background. And
you just said about going back and rereading some of these characters. Did you go back to the Defenders of the Earth Marvel series, or did you actually watch that TV show to see how
other the show a little bit? I didn't read the comics. My whole experience reading the Phantom was always in my newspaper as a kid. Like, he was always there. It was the one superhero in the newspaper, so I read it all the time. Sometimes I would cut them out and save them, but then I'd go, I'm too lazy to glue all these or whatever, and so I didn't keep them. But it was good looking stuff. I'd often draw him and everything. I was like, oh, this looks really cool. Because he works really well in black and white.
Yes.
I'm surprised there's not more black and white Phantom material, just because it just looks great.
So
it's like, yeah,
the-
purple, whatever.
Yeah. In Australia, our comic is black and white.
Okay.
So
Yeah. It's like,
there's
and then-
Stephen's got one. Stephen's got an example just there that he's holding up.
can we focus on his screen
Yep.
so I can see the?
Show us again.
Oh,
Show us
that's
again.
good.
Sorry, Steve.
Sorry, man. That's
There you go.
yeah.
So
That's not a newspaper strip. That's I think, what's that one?
Joan Boyks.
Which artist is that?
Joan Boyk,
Okay.
From
Spain.
Yeah. And so that's our fortnightly comic book that we get in Australia. And it's predominantly black and white, maybe 2 or 3 color issues a year.
Oh, it looks good.
Oh, this is the old
and
school
then
stuff.
I got lucky because then let me see where. Then Nate brought in Mark Laming from London, and he wanted to work on the series, and it's like, well, that's great. Mark's in my mind, he was the modern Al Williamson. He inks a lot like him, and I was like, this would be perfect. And when Mark first drew the Phantom in there, I was like, all right, this is exactly what I was hoping for. Because did you just read the thing again recently?
Yes.
The Dynamite series? I wanted to get away from the Kit Walker stuff. I didn't want to, because I thought, well, one of the interesting things I can do is not lock it in time and make it as like this is part of the Walker family. The fun thing about Phantom is he's a legacy hero, and I guess the first, really.
Yes, I believe.
So that was.
I can't think of many others.
That was good questions, Jeff. So did you plan right from the get-go not to have Kit Walker as the Phantom? Because we only found out in the 5th book of the King's Watch series.
Yeah, I was leaving it vague just to make people wonder. But in my mind, and now you'll be able to remind me because you're more refreshed on the whole thing than I am. I was originally going to do you always have these ideas and you run out of time and space to do it. Because especially when you're juggling all these characters and like Cobra and all this stuff and Ming the Merciless and everything. There's all this going on. I wanted to reveal that this Phantom had the skull mark on him, like he was actually a bad guy that the last Phantom had, brought to justice, punched out, who grudgingly grew to respect him and then decided to, step up and take his mantle until he could find the actual family line again.
Yeah.
So that was my take on it, because I wanted to leave it free for whoever was going to be doing the Phantom later.
Right.
Like, and also I wanted to have my cake and eat it too. I wanted to show like a Phantom, because you should be able to do this with the Phantom. You should be able to show him in all kinds of time periods. And I wanted to show a Phantom who is like, he's been doing this a long time. He's barely like holding it together. He's a big, tough guy, but he's been hurt every imaginable way and is, practically stitched together at this point, taking pain pills, everything to just keep going. And just having this gruff, facial hair Phantom to me was kind of interesting thing to just switch it up a little bit.
So I remember when I first read the first issue, I actually had another Phantom fan that had come over, and so we actually went to the comic book shop, got it together, and then read it together and talked about it for like 2-3 hours afterwards. he got in trouble with his wife for not getting home sooner.
Are you talking about it at a pub?
Yeah, but the scruffy Phantom was interesting. That didn't bother me as much. It didn't bother me as much. Even the trunks of the Phantom didn't, because there's an Australian artist that has that same style as well. But for myself and probably for a lot of Phantom fans, and I'll let these guys say it for them. But the Phantom not being the Phantom was probably the real shock to the system. Having someone who is not the Phantom, because he's always, every comic we've always read, he's always been Mr. Walker. So that was a real shock to the system by episode 5. But
yeah, well, I wanted to say, because since it wasn't technically Phantom centered, I thought let's play with the idea of the fact that I like the idea that it's the legend of it itself kind of takes over whoever is wearing the costume. The idea that they step up and become greater than they are.
Yeah.
Because they've got to fill the boots. They've got to become the Phantom. And that suddenly people who really weren't, probably never would have thought they could have done it, find themselves going above and beyond because they've got to become as good as some guy in 1684 who was doing the Phantom's favorite thing, beating the hell out of pirates. Phantom hates pirates. He doesn't like them. He never has, and with good reason. But also, then I got into the thing of because I knew that they were going to. As I understood it, we were going to do a starting point here, and everybody was going to branch off.
Yep.
I thought there was going to be more Mandrake stuff than there was. There was a little bit, and there was more Phantom stuff. And I already knew what my Flash Gordon story was, so I was definitely doing that. So I was just trying to give people a nice open point. But then, I probably really messed with them when I decided to make Lothar the Phantom at the end.
That didn't upset me. Dan,
I just thought he was cool, and it's like I was like, wait, this makes perfect sense. Like, he shouldn't be Mandrake's second banana, it's like, and then the interesting thing was, like, I have Lothar because since Lothar is obviously the big tough guy, and who goes around beating the hell out of people for Mandrake, because that's not really Mandrake's thing. He does illusions and things like that, and some real actual occult magic. But the way the story worked out, I had planned it like, oh, okay, Lothar is going to meet the Phantom first. And then it's one of those things you can't really plan for, where they just had such a good chemistry. Like, he and the guy at that point taking the mantle of the Phantom, like, I really liked the two of them together. So I ended up writing more of that than I was originally going to, just because they made a good team.
Yeah, they did.
And then it became clear to me, like, oh, yeah, he's going to die. And it's like, and then this whole thing can pass temporarily to Lothar to find wherever the walkers are. And I probably should have come back and done that, but I thought they had somebody else on it. They had a lot of good writers come in, like Acker and Blacker, who do the Thrilling Adventure Hour, were doing stuff. They had a lot of people talking about it, but you never know from one end of something. Yeah, the cool. I had to get it like a Ray Harryhausen dinosaur fighting a creature fighting an elephant.
This was just jaw dropping, this fight, and Mark did such a great job.
It's so good.
And you're right.
Kills the hell out of that thing.
Yeah, and you're right. Lothar and the Phantom just had such a good chemistry. And it all started from here as well, is I think where their chemistry worked so well together.
Yeah.
It was a great introduction to see the Phantom this way, like riding in on Hero or riding in on the White Stallion, and then doing his acrobatic.
On that one for me, Jim, while Steve talks.
Yeah, so coming in here and coming all
just
guns
comes
blazing,
in guns blazing on the horse.
Iconic image on the horse, and then he does his flippy routine and takes out the big beast. It was a great introduction for the character to come in that way.
And it reminded me of the way that Billy Zane burst onto the screens in the Phantom movie, albeit not against a vicious lizard dinosaur thing, but that bursting through into the clearing on Hero, just iconic. And that's one of the things I was going to say to you, Jeff, is it's credit to you that you get so many things about the Phantom bang on in terms of the Phantom lore. The way you reveal the backstory and that sort of thing. I'm not surprised to hear that you were a reader from early on, because you clearly know the character well.
Oh, thank you. I like the fact that the Billy Zane movie, essentially did take him out of Africa. And they thought, no, let's put him in a different jungle, because it kind of just it's too much in the same Tarzan thing, and it's that whole great white savior kind of thing that nowadays you're like, this is kind of not great taste.
Yeah,
it's like they sort of, and even in the 90s they sort of avoided that really well. But my favorite thing about Billy Zane's Phantom is that he enjoys being the Phantom.
Yep.
He's not brooding and grim. He's laughing a lot. He thinks it's cool that he's got a wolf. It's like he was doing so good. If that thing didn't fall apart in the third act, it was really a solid movie. And it had real stunts. It had Vic Armstrong doing the stunt work in it. It was so good.
Yeah, we've done a commentary on it, and we've all said the same, that it was just the third act in a sense just ruined the movie.
Well, but then again, when you look later, like that's pretty much what happens to almost every superhero movie. They all fall apart in the third act. Even though it's like it didn't fall apart the same way. Usually they fall apart because they try to go super big, like with Wonder Woman, have this massive thing, tie it all into World War I, and it just sort of loses the focus of the characters. It happens again and again, and everybody makes the same mistake. And that's why I always try to push for everybody, like, no, go small at the end, like bring all the central characters together. Do not have legions of armies. Do not have the 5 armies coming together. Let's get the main characters together and like make it about, have it boil down to whoever the key battle is. I did that logo, by the way.
Yeah, that was actually a question that we had actually asked, is that I heard the rumor that you did do the logo for it.
Yeah, I used to get so mad at getting crappy logos on my comics. It happened a lot at Marvel, and so I started like just saying, "Let me do the logo. Like I can do this. Like I take a lot longer than a real logo designer, but I will eventually get it right, or get something pretty interesting." And that's when I thought, it'd be fun if I like kind of boiled them down to these 3 icons. The Phantom was easy; it's the skull.
Yeah.
Mandrake was a little more confusing. Then I finally went with the Hypno Eye. I'm still not sure that's the best, but you know what it means.
Yeah.
And Flash, of course, is always a lightning bolt because Flash.
Yeah. So. No, it's great. I really enjoyed the King's Watch, the logo, and everything about this series.
It's nice.
Jordan Boyd did amazing colors on it too. I mean, it's just like, it's such an art tour de force between Mark and Jordan. I love looking at it.
Yeah,
it really is, and it's nice that you get to keep your pen in, Jeff, with the artwork there. I gather you must be much more of a writer these days.
Oh yeah. I only once in a while draw something. Like I'm working on I did a Kickstarter recently for Blighter, my little talking tiger book, and I've been sending Drew Moss some layouts, and he's being really nice and not acting annoyed about it, but he probably is ready for me to stop. But I want to try to help, and sometimes you can just simply draw something out faster than you can describe it.
Yeah.
So I would occasionally send Mark some little drawings to go along with it, and once again, Mark's extremely polite. He would never tell me I'm overstepping, but for the most part, it wasn't like I did any layouts or anything for it. I mean, the man's a machine. He can do everything really. If you don't follow him on Twitter, he's just at Mark Laming, and he's just the nicest man you'll ever meet.
Mm.
Yeah,
And-
no, really enjoyed his work. Did a great job.
I see that Jermaine's stopped it on Jen here. Was it always your idea to have Jen become the Phantom?
No, actually, it wasn't my idea, and it came after mine. So,
Is it just a coincidence that the girls are both redheads named Jen?
Oh, this is a different Jen, is it?
No, this is the same Jen. So yeah. Now
You got a lot much longer hair by the
actually,
time.
they caught me off guard with that one. I didn't know they were going to do that.
Jeff, you said that you were surprised, and that was one of the things I was going to ask. Is by the time you came back to write the Flash Gordon King's Watch part after this sequel, you had Jen as a Phantom to deal with as well as Lothar.
Yeah, so she was in place, and I was like, and then I had to catch up. I was like, wait, when did she become the Phantom? Lothar's the Phantom,
Yeah.
And I was like, well, whatever. It's like, now we've got two Phantoms. And,
I would say that your depiction of Jen was probably the strongest than the other depictions of Jen as the Phantom, because, and we've discussed this on the podcast, and this is one of the things we wanted to talk to you about, was we found that Jen overall was a fairly weak Phantom, and she just didn't feel like a Phantom.
No, but then in the Flash Gordon Part 5, I think she does a couple of things.
Yeah, that are more Phantom.
Oh, so she has actually got some skills where she just wasn't portrayed that way for most of the rest of the.
So again, that goes with my thing of everybody just starts. The costume makes you start stepping it up.
Yeah,
like you start. It's something about it, almost like a spirit, is inhibiting you. I mean, inhabiting you and making you do more. But again, like I said, in my mind, they were always holding place Phantoms. But the interesting thing was showing how, well, if the Phantom had this big a legend coming into the 20th century, those other Phantoms must have been pretty good.
Yeah.
Like the Phantom of the 20s must have been pretty badass. And so the idea, and people have done things where they go back and do little jump backs through time to see how another Phantom, but they often will waste on, and here's how that Phantom got killed. And it's like, no, just show a straight up adventure and do a whole thing, with like a 18th century Phantom. That would be fun. And not everybody's crazy about doing period stuff as I might be, though. So, and people don't listen to me, guys.
Need to go check out some of the Egmont stuff. They hit that button real hard and have done some stories from the Chronicle. And you don't see how the Phantom dies and all. You see their adventures, their swashbuckling, and see them in different periods of time. And sometimes they do it real well, and other times people think they could have done that better. Then it's just like with everything, I suppose. But yeah, if you want to check out Phantom throughout time, there's a whole range of work there.
Yeah.
Well, so it's fun to think. Like I was trying to make a little point somewhere in there, I think, about the fact that the Phantom and Mandrake are both immortal in different ways.
Mm.
I mean, the Phantom's always a different person. And one day, like the twins are going to have to decide which one of us, they have to draw straws or whatever, who gets to be the Phantom. And it's like, and obviously you want the girl to be the Phantom, because it's like, you've seen a zillion guy Phantoms, you want it to switch up. But, and Mandrake literally seems to be immortal because he looks the same as he did when Flash saw him as a little kid.
Mm.
So like, whatever he's doing, he's doing something that's keeping him from aging.
This is if you're on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. This is in King's Watch number 5. This is on page 2022 where Lothar's going, I'm going to find that man. So he's talking about the next Phantom. And then on page, let me try and go back. Sorry about that. That would have been really confusing for everyone. So this is King's Watch number 5. There we go. And then this scene here. So this is where the Phantom, the current Phantom, talks about how his life was saved, and then he finds out about how he's got a son abroad, but he was never able to find him. So So is it
So
safe
that's
to,
obviously it.
yeah, so it's safe to say that when you were writing this, you intended the next Phantom to be a male?
Well, I still wanted to leave it up because he doesn't say how old the kid is. He may not be Phantom age yet,
Yeah.
Yeah, it may be a little bit young. Is tough, which is why it worked to have Lothar step in for a little bit, I
Mm.
thought.
Mm.
I don't know. It appealed to me, the idea of to have this character suddenly be a little more fluid than you had seen him, and more fluid than obviously Flash or Mandrake could be. Because the problem you run into, especially when you see a Defenders of the Earth type thing, is they're all the same kind of hero.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're all the very best. It's like, and their personalities aren't different enough and everything. And that's why I wanted to get them at different points in their
Yeah.
life. Flash is still a kind of young hot shot who he's just in it for fun. We get more of that in the series with me and Shaner after this at first, and he sort of steps in, and you see that he's sort of influenced a lot by the Phantom, a little bit by Mandrake, and somewhat by Lothar. So this is sort of inspiring him. Like my whole take on when I first pitched the Flash Gordon thing was, Flash is from old money, and that was consistent with the way the Alex Raymond strip always was. So like literally he went to Yale, he did play polo. It's still like, you can still do that. So he's riding horses and playing an old game. No one knows how it works. But he was also had this whole element of being into all the kind of thrill seeking adventure stuff and doing the big dives, bungee, and all that sort of thing. And my take was that Flash is extremely good at everything that doesn't matter.
Mm.
So it was like, his dad's frustrated with him because he wants him to come in and take over his industries, and Flash has no head for business at all.
Yeah.
It's just not something he's any good at.
Yeah.
But suddenly, when he's dropped on Mongo, where your strengths need to be sword fighting, riding beasts, battling all kinds of crazy things, Flash is amazing at that.
Mm.
So that was so at the point, he's kind of the noob here. There's a good bit.
Yeah, I really liked. That was actually one of the comments that we had, was about having the characters at different elements. Like Mandrake was his brooding, dark, solemn type of person who's lost his wife, and a bit of a recluse. And then you got and then we've discussed the Phantom. So I really did like how you had the heroes at different times in their I don't know, what would you call it?
Journey.
Yeah. So I really liked how you had that.
I like that the Phantom is not surprised by these creatures. He just runs in, it's something else to shoot,
Another
just
day at
starts
the office.
blazing away at it.
Yeah, not surprised. I know everything. This isn't natural. But anyway, I shot it, and here it is.
Yeah.
Wasn't
And
the time he meets up
there's
with
a
Cyclops
bed,
at the
somebody
head?
take it.
I really enjoyed the joke about the mobile phone as well. I thought that was an ongoing joke throughout the series.
Yeah, we kind of use that a bit much.
Yeah,
but
but
it kind of
I
also
thought it was good.
Yeah, and it gets you out of the whole thing of having to like show whatever technology everybody's using at the time. So hopefully the story lasts a little while.
That's
Also, it's who the hell wants to see Mandrake pop up on an iPhone? Yeah, it's just showing
just
up
not
in
Mandrake,
the
is
flame
it?
is just 100 times cooler.
It is.
Well, I must say, you're, hearing that you didn't want to be bogged down by technology. Maybe that explains the electromagnetic pulses that wiped out all technology on Earth.
Well, that was the other thing I was thinking. Like, okay, what makes all our armies and military useless, so that these heroes matter more?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, why wouldn't they just be sitting back like, oh wow, those NATO jets really did a number on the spaceships there. Like maybe shoot some missiles up.
And look,
Wow, I forgot how much near nudity we got in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to ask about Nadia, but I thought I'll better go to this little bit instead of the one where she got straight out of the bath, just so that way we could.
Your instincts are strong, Jared.
Yeah.
But no, I at some point I got to the idea of like, oh yeah, obviously, and I referenced this a little bit in just the regular Flash Gordon series. Ming's general approach to colonizing a planet is he lets them get to a certain point of technology where we're all so dependent on it that all he has to do is hit with a big EMP to the planet and we're useless. And then he can send in beast men and just beat us to death.
I thought that was a really clever plot device. It's a really intelligent thing for someone who wants to conquer another world to do. Especially if they're immortal.
And I never, as part of those things, I never get to find room for. I wanted Prince Baron at some point to mention, yeah, we were having fun with the internet, and then this went, like every planet gets to the same stage where they're all super dependent on all of this web stuff, and then Ming wipes them out, and that's why when I did the that series with Jesse Ham, we had everybody, they're listening on old tube radios and stuff. They're having to and you see that during this series where Flash Gordon is driving a cool old
muscle car.
I'm trying to remember which. I think I had him in a Camaro or something. So like a 60s car that wouldn't have a computer in it. It's because that's the only thing that still works.
And the comment that they've all gone back and people are fixing up these old cars and that sort of thing. It's a bit Mad Maxy.
Yeah, and that's the and I still think about that. It's like, well, what if this happens again? Like everybody who's hyper dependent on tech is going to be screwed, and I've got one old car that I know will work, so at least I'll be able to drive that for a bit if I can find gas.
We always go old school, and like one of the panels that just come out there, back on horseback again.
Oh, of course, yeah. That gets you back to where the Phantom excels. Like he's going everywhere on horseback all the time. Look at this cool. Look at the cool Zarkov ship that Mark designed. I think I sent him some sketch for it, but he made it way better.
So can we ask about Nadia, which was, for those who have come in late, that's Mandrake's wife, and in this comic series, she's actually the bad person, and at the end of episode 5, she actually becomes Cobra.
Right.
So can I just ask, what was your reasoning behind having her as the bad person?
Well, I thought, that if assuming whoever was going to go ahead and do more Mandrake stuff, I just figured like
it'll be a good story.
How harsh can you be to set up the villain as his ex-wife? It's like, hey, I couldn't resist that. And plus, she just looked cool in the costume. I do a lot of things based on if someone looks cool in a costume. So that's what I like. And I thought, hey, Lothar looks cool as the Phantom. There's whatever. It's like that. It's no more complicated than that. By the end of it,
I probably assumed that she was already estranged from Mandrake before you picked up the series. Is that not the case? You split them?
Yeah, I think we were working with that, and I was trying to establish that Mandrake is probably the most flexible, moral person of these heroes. You got to assume like he's done some ugly stuff in his past that he doesn't really talk about, and because he just sort of has to, because that's kind of the way we accept occult characters, that like, oh yeah, they're not Shining Knights, they're not Prince Valiant.
Yeah. I also like this little thing that you did at the start. I think it started at episode 3 where you kind of did the little introductions of the people. And then you had Zarkov, Drunken Scientist, and the Cobra.
That's all editor Nate Cosby. He loves doing those quick one-page recaps that just get you all you need to know. And if he can do something like Determined Crime Fighter, Intrepid Reporter, Drunken Scientist, I didn't think I made Zarkov drink that much, but I guess I did.
Oh, look, I don't. In rereading it, I don't think there was any doubt that he's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Read all 5 issues.
It does.
Oh wow! This
And
guy,
if you read our Flash Gordon series, it becomes a story point at one part where Zarkov is drinking with some of the other characters, and he essentially drinks them all under the table because he's Zarkov and he's good at it. You know, so
I think
that's how he got the ring in the first place. The key
ring in the first place. Yeah, it was
of the Russians.
yeah, I was particularly proud of this scene where Mandrake goes back through his memory to give him the flash powder.
I really enjoyed that. That was great.
that's
and
interesting.
the idea that Little Flash went to see him because he liked magicians, it was too good to pass up. It made the universe kind of come together well too, I felt. And we saved him putting the top hat on for pretty late, you know. It's like when he finally does this one showdown, he breaks it out, and it's like one of those opera hats that you poke it and it pops out, and then he puts it on.
Yeah. It's interesting that you identified that particular scene, Jeff, because it was the one that they used in the script to page presentation in, I think this is King's Watch 3. So it shows a page of your script, then the pencil or layouts and pencils, and then the colors, and then adding the, so that must have stood out in that way too.
I know somewhere around here I got the Phantom in Australia, right? There's no way I wasn't going to do that.
Episode 4.
Thank you.
That was episode 4, but it was in Sydney, and neither of us are from Sydney, though. That's the only problem about it.
Yeah, so I only had room for one city, man. I had to go with the one everybody could recognize.
Yeah.
Couldn't help it.
This was a scene that I really liked as well, where you've got the Phantom and his ancestors fighting the bad guys by an illusion with Mandrake. It was a real nice touch, I thought.
Yeah, and see, there's a lady Phantom back there.
Yes,
and,
we thought it was Julie.
Yeah, and I wish we could have done a longer version of that, because it was one of those cool moments like that you want to have. Like, you're reminding me. I forgot we had a lot of cool moments in this, and it's like I'm feeling pretty good about this now.
Yeah. No, it's a great series. Yeah. Fans are still talking about this. We did a post up on our social media about this series, and the response from fans saying, "Oh, I love that series," and stuff like that. And that's one of the reasons why we thought we have to get Jeff on to this podcast and talk to him about it, because a lot of fans really enjoyed it. I remember
that's great.
I think I told you this when we were talking, but I remember going into the comic book shop and buying one of these issues. And they were like, "Oh, the new Defenders of the Earth," and then about, and this is in Australia, and then there was about 5 of us, 5 comic fans, not just Phantom fans. Then all started talking about the Defenders of the Earth, and then they asked the comic book owner to order them the series so they can read it, and then they were talking about how they like Flash or from the series and stuff like that. So there was a lot of fans, and a lot of Phantom fans, but also other fans that really enjoyed this series because it brought back the Defenders of the Earth.
Well, I could tell when I went to comic conventions and people would bring it up, and I was really happy then, because that's when you get to. You can't always go by what people say online.
Yeah,
it's a distilled bunch, but then they get people bringing it up and they talk about the scenes they like, and that's what I live for. That's what makes it all worth going to the shows and which hopefully we'll all be able to do again before long.
Yeah.
And they get to tell you, because you never know what's going to stick with somebody, you know.
Mm.
Mm.
Because
I think-
when you think about things you liked when you were a young reader and stuff, that some little scene that they probably didn't think was that important, but for whatever reason, that one stuck with you. I'm always fascinated to hear that from people.
Mm.
Mm.
I think one of the things.
And it was fun, the fact that you don't really see Ming that much. You just get the effects of Ming throughout this, and then this needed, there he is. And and then I got to do the thing with Flash that I always thought was, probably the weakest point of his origin. The whole thing where Zarkov, just gun points everybody and let's get in the rocket. We're going to Mongo. And it's like, no, a good hero makes the decisions and directs his own path,
Mm.
It's like, it can't be somebody things just keep happening to and they happen to be good. So the end of this, I got to start off our Flash series with Flash realizing, I got to go through that portal. We can't stop here. And, and so he takes off and seals it that way. Which is nice because you can read the Flash Gordon thing, and if you're just willing to read Flash Gordon, you can look at it and go, okay, they start right in the action. I just assumed they got there. But then a lot of people would then go back and read King's Watch because they wanted to find out why did they suddenly appear on there? Like, well, you've got to read this whole other miniseries to find out.
Yeah.
And I think King Features is probably pretty happy with that, because then it made it all count. You don't want it to just be people are just showing up because it's cool that they're all together. You want them to all really influence each other and direct each other. And I feel like we did it mostly.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah. I really enjoyed. Yeah. That was good.
I mean, what's more classic than Ming holding the planet?
Yeah.
I thought that was a good
Flaming-
opening. I was just reading that
Flaming
earlier.
knows what he's doing.
He's in complete control. There's no way anyone can defeat this fella.
I also liked in the King's Cross one where he used the whole democracy way of him being voted in as well. That was quite clever.
Thank goodness that no one's going to take over a democracy like that.
Yeah, that's certainly nothing any of us have to worry about.
No.
Not our two particular countries.
Jeff, one of the things I was going to say, Joe mentioned how popular the King's Watch was among Phantom fans, and I think one of the things that you juggled really well in this was the idea of the Phantom still being an ordinary man, and you talked a bit about plot devices to bring the rest of the world down to their level, sort of thing. But also in Defenders of the
Tell
Earth,
Flash to shut up.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, in Defenders of the Earth, even then the Phantom had a special superpower, could call on a magical strength of 10 tigers, and you didn't have that. You just had, as you said earlier, an ordinary guy dealing with pain and that sort of stuff. And it's also a real challenge, I think, for Phantom fans who, if you're just into the Phantom, then you're not really into the supernatural or the science fiction, and you've brought both of those elements into this story because of the other two characters, of course. But for this, and then in some ways, for if you're a real Phantom fan, like dedicated Lee Falk, all the rest of it, the idea that the person wearing the mask is not actually a walker. So for you to do all of those things and still have, and I would rate this as, I think episode 5 in particular might be one of my favorite comic books of the Phantom. Just to bring all of those elements in together and still not piss people off, for want of a better term.
Well, is this not the best Skull Cave you've ever seen, though? Look at this thing.
Yeah, he's done a great job. There's a ship in there.
Like, he gets it. Only Mark could do this. Like you're like, what's this elephant in the background? What's the, what's this? And then you see the skull opening way back in the back, so you know where you are. It's like, oh, the guy's so good.
No, it's and just like where he goes, oh, some pirates had at one point. I thought it would be safer here. That's I really even though this Phantom, and I think that's one of the reasons why this Phantom not being the Phantom didn't jar or didn't upset me. It was because he was a likable person.
Yeah.
And seeing you did it at episode 5, you've kind of grown accustomed and you've grown to like this Phantom by episode 5. But if we learn about that at, say, episode 1 or something, we might have not liked him as much because we're going, oh, he's an imposter. But we've already liked him, and then we find out he's not of the Walker line, and it's like, oh, no, he's
I can live with that.
Phantom-like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very good writing.
You gotta screw with the fans a little bit, Jermaine. You can't. I mean, you got to trick them sometimes into liking something that they weren't gonna like. I love doing that. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Well, I think you've done that. I think you've done that very well.
And anyone can come in and tick boxes, you know. Anyone can say, well, here's technically this character, and he does very well, and he doesn't embarrass himself, blah, blah, blah. And what you come away with is something that's forgettable and doesn't have anything that you can relate to. Then once you accept the Phantom as like, okay, like he's somebody just really trying desperately to kind of honor the guy and find who comes after him and everything, then it's a neat story, and then it suggests a bigger universe for him.
Yeah.
Also like the fact that he just grabs every magical thing and drags it into his cave. This needs to be in my cave.
Yeah.
But this is cool. I reckon I'll be able to use this at some stage. I'll just.
And it's also playing with the idea that Batman does the same thing. You know, since Batman just totally ripped the idea off from the Phantom, might as well.
There was almost a bit of a
really. I mean, it's kind of interesting because you know it's the whole I tried to like kind of keep that connection with Phantom and Mandrake because they are essentially brothers with the dad of Lee Falk, you know, who I recently was watching, oddly enough, on this other little podcast I sometimes do with my friends Gabe Hardman and John Suntress. And we were doing a little special since Betty White had just died. And we were watching old game shows from the 60s of Password. And then they did one with cartoonists, and Lee Falk comes on. And I was like, hey, that was really interesting. It's easy to find on YouTube.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, he just comes on, and they're all playing for their charities. Actually, I think they're all playing for the same charity, so it didn't really matter who won.
What was the name of the show? Password.
Password. Yeah, look up Password Betty White, and you'll find it.
We'll have to look at that one.
Yeah, and what a natural thing to have Phantom and of course Flash fighting Beastmen.
But I just think he's and then like the misdirection with Lee Falk and all that. You've done a really good job in making it work, and I like this Phantom, the action, just get in there, get it done. You know,
I forgot about this where they're kind of making fun of Flash. I really. I didn't like make Flash too good at this point. Like, you know, when Mandrake says he doesn't overthink things, and Phantom's just kind of laughing at him. You know,
where was it? Yeah,
because Flash is just a headstrong kid, really. And it's in his next series where he starts growing up and starts becoming Flash Gordon. Really,
this is like his year one.
Exactly. You know, he's just getting by on sheer guts and energy, whereas Phantom's in that position of the strong old guy who has to really think about his moves because you know it's like I'm going to get one shot at this all the time. And Mandrake, you never really know what he's thinking because he's enigmatic.
Where was it? There was somewhere where they actually talk about, was it up here? where they actually talk about being the defenders of the earth or something like that. Like you actually use that.
Yeah, there's no
sort
way
of-
there's no way I didn't pass. I passed that up and didn't work that phrase in.
Mm.
I
I
must
think
have gotten
you
it.
might have said it.
Maybe I just made a
There's a
title.
part. There's a part where Lothar and Phantom have just gone to the portal, the King's Watch pathway, and I think they've been knocked down, and Cobra's saying, "So here we are, the Phantom," and I know, I think he says something about Lothar and so-called defenders of the earth. And I thought, here we go.
Yeah. It was just another one of those nice little touches.
Hmm.
I'll just open up number 5 now.
And even just amongst what we just saw Germ scroll through there at the end of episode 4, where the Phantom and Flash Gordon and Mandrake are suddenly appearing in boardrooms and attending meetings, explaining tactics to people. You know, that they're in a seminar room one moment and then they're back on the battlefield the next.
Yeah. Those guys, they weren't getting a lot of sleep during this little war. That's always the trick, though. You know, you see these things like the CW will do it, you know, where like all the heroes have to team up to fight something. And, you know, like, how is this really a worldwide battle when it's only like a handful of costume people kind of leading the charge here? There's Flash and the Chevy. But
There's,
GTO. This was some muscle car. I forgot. But
And
I like the idea that everybody had to kind of look to them like, we've never even heard of these 3 people, but we're now listening to them because they're making all the progress against this weird attack that's hitting the whole planet.
It was good. I think you won over a lot of fans, especially Australian fans, when you got Australia in there as well. So,
well, you know, somewhere, I mean, you are the land of the most dangerous creatures, and there's something like that out in the water. It's,
I reckon I saw that up in my tree.
what's the most terrifying thing that any of you have come across in nature?
probably a drop bear.
I've had a big crocodile swim past a fishing boat I was in.
Ooh, that would scare you.
That'll make you think.
Yeah. I wasn't dangling my feet in the dipping that day.
I've had a snake at work. That one's happened.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that made people jump, I can tell you.
Yeah. I went swimming with some sharks for my birthday. So that was interesting.
You actually sought it.
Yeah, I it was at a marina or something. I swear they were pumping the Jaws music through the water because that's all I heard was the dum 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 water music.
Oh, I hope they were.
Yeah.
I hope you also had one of those big knives in your mouth that you're biting as you swam.
So,
That's a good shot of the cave too.
yeah. So was it? So you came. So after this series, you said that you did the Flash series, and then you came back and did the King's Cross, which is where we saw the Phantom, I guess, and we kind of wrapped up the whole series.
Yeah, and that was really me working. I was kind of co-doing that with Jesse Ham.
Yeah.
See, there's Flash, Phantom shooting up because he's in constant pain. It's like he's just constantly jabbing himself with pain killers.
But I think that also showed the human side of him as well.
Yeah, like he looks like hell.
And I liked this too.
Oh, this was great. I love this little section through the book too.
Was
I've
this
forgotten this?
this artwork here? Was that your guidance to say make them 3 different, age appropriate or time appropriate costumes, or was that Mark who came up with that?
It's probably Mark. I probably said, and I can't check because this is like 2 laptops ago that where I've lost a lot of material, but Mark might still have it because he's good at saving things like that, and he could probably actually check to see what I wrote. But it's like I probably just said, let's differentiate them and show different time periods. I especially like those pants on the middle guy. I like that mask. Well, I like the hood mask too. This is tough. They all look pretty cool.
I'm not sure if
That
you.
first one's kind of basic, but the other two are pretty neat.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're still following the daily newspapers or the Sundays in particular. But the current artist for the Sundays, Jeff Weigel, has started doing this sort of thing with age, the different
Phantoms.
different past phantoms. Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, I'll go start catching up on it because that's kind of thing I enjoy.
They released a poster with 21 different costumes and was sold out within minutes.
Yeah.
By the way, I feel like, flipping back through this, I totally forgot that and by we, I really mean Mark, had Mandrake doing these little spinning glyph circles around his hands the way they use in the Doctor Strange movies.
Hmm.
I'm like, wait a minute.
Seen that before.
This is the way. Did somebody do this before we did it? Now I'm thinking Laming should probably get some money. Because these guys are great.
Cobra.
Yeah,
They
they
sent
look like
Cobra some actual snake men.
yeah.
I love that image.
Yeah, it's a great image.
And the just the idea too that Mandrake's got the perfect illusion and it is no illusion and it just completely throws Cobra and his armies.
And this
Yeah, he's done it so many times that they're sure there's no point even trying to attack these guys. This is an illusion. Then pow.
and then here he's got his hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, does the pop out hat and punches him. And of course, Phantom with the way he solves everything, double guns.
Yeah, that was really good.
Just an endless supply of ammo that you don't see where he keeps it.
Oh, it's tucked away in his belt there somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere in his belt, he must have just nothing but clips.
It was,
Or maybe Mandrake figured it out for him so that his clip just keeps refilling in the gun.
It's been charmed.
This was
That's the kind of,
yeah.
then that's where Flash takes off and goes, "We're going through."
Yeah, and then the Phantom sacrifices himself. It was good having like that because in so many comics and movies, they kind of just they live happily ever after. Having the Phantom passing away, having Flash having to go through, they are able to save the day in the long run, but there were sacrifices that had to be made, and we see that even in today's movies, like with the Marvel one with Iron Man and stuff like that. That's having Iron Man dying. That's what made that movie, and then
Sure.
and I guess you did it before.
It is what you always remember. Like when heroes that can always figure out everything to put it all back the way it was, then you just forget that. But heroes who give up something, that sticks with you.
Yeah.
Jeff, you said earlier that as you were writing, you came to realize that the Phantom would have to die. Can you talk us through that process as you're writing a story and you suddenly go, oh, this character's going to die, and now I've got to do that, and you're able to do Lothar. But how far through the story are you when that starts to happen? Are you still just mapping the whole thing out, or when did you realize that that would happen?
I think it grew out of the character. I think I realized he's doing the thing like an animal does, where it gives it goes full blast before the end. Like he's putting everything into it. And even if he didn't, just get blasted or whatever, he was going to keel over because he's just giving everything to this battle between the planets. It's like he's come to a long line of just any number of fights, and who knows what he's been up against at this point. And I was thinking, no, it just feels right. And a lot of what I do is based on if something it makes intuitive sense. It's like I will never do something just to say game the system and they go, oh, this is what'll suck fans in and blah 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 or whatever. I can't bring it myself to do that, or just simply rile them up for the sake of just getting attention.
Mm-hmm.
And probably my career suffered because I won't do it, but I just can't. It's but intuitively, it felt like this guy knew from the beginning, like once he started seeing the kind of stuff that was happening, he knew this was probably going to be where he gets off the trolley. And so, he was just going to, he's a real man's man type figure. And he's clearly just going to show everybody else how you live and how you die. And it just worked. I felt, I was like, I genuinely missed him when he was gone.
Yeah.
And I like how that
you don't even know his name, and you're like invested in him.
Yeah.
And he does pass the mantle. Really, you don't know it at the time, but that is him passing it on to Lothar.
Yeah.
You look back at it and go, oh, he would have known then. He's showing Lothar the secrets, and he's making his preparations. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole time Lothar's really being trained and doesn't even realize it. He's like, this is the way I do stuff. I wear this little ring and I punch guys in the face and they have to look at my little. It's like, you would think though that would end up being like a kind of cool thing. People wanted like, like you got punched by the Phantom.
I saw the Phantom and lived.
Yeah, I'm still alive and I've got it in a cool place. Whereas, like, if he punched you right on the nose, that would probably look sort of stupid, and you'd be embarrassed about it always.
Well, actually, isn't it in the next one where Jen punches the smuggler right in the middle of the forehead? Gets that's where he wears his skull mark.
Yeah, you always think there's a Roger Langridge cover. You always think the Phantom. He knows where he's hitting. He knows where people are going to have to see that skull.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of guys grow a beard after the Phantom beats them up because he punched them somewhere in the jaw.
Yeah.
So this is the start of the King's Cross series that I've got up on the YouTube. Now, if you're watching this via YouTube, so did this series to me seemed a little bit more fun than the first one, which was probably a little bit more serious and life and death.
I was giving Jesse a little more reign with this. I was generally plotting it, and letting him just be in control of like the delivery of how it all came about. And it's weird. He was more whimsical than I probably would have done it. But at the same time, I felt like we were pretty heavy with King's Watch, so it's like it made sense that it wouldn't be nearly as heavy as that. And there's some just weird bits, and there's some interesting kind of weird stuff you see that's like, I don't know that this would make sense outside of comics, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
There's where they all gather around the radio. Let's all listen.
Yeah, you're right.
We have to actually go watch newsreels at the theater like they used to.
You're right that there was a lot more weirdness in this series than the other one.
Because also it had to incorporate Prince Valiant.
Yeah.
And some other stuff.
And then there was Jungle Jim.
Yeah, Jungle Jim. God, how did I forget him? And we were using Jungle Jim had been retooled by Paul Tobin into this kind of sort of Swamp Thing kind of guy where he has more of a connection with the jungle, which is fine because otherwise he's just a safari dude going around.
Yeah, I must admit, when I started reading Jungle Jim, I thought he was going to be the missing the Phantom Heir.
That could have worked, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Stephen, I think you and I both agreed that he would have been a good Phantom.
Yeah, I thought that he was going to be the next Phantom, and I thought I liked the character. I really liked the character when that Jungle Jim series came out, that little 4 or 5 part or whatever it was. I enjoyed that, and
Paul writes good stuff. You got to get him on the show and try to make him remember what he was thinking. Well, see, we all get put in this position where we think things are going to go a certain way from the point we did it, and then you check back in later and go, "Oh, they didn't do it, but I thought they were going to do it all." I thought,
it's like that
suddenly,
exercise we do in when kids in classrooms. You start up a story, then you pass it on to the next, and they have to write the
Exactly.
next bit.
Yeah, and I think that this probably around this time I was working on Aquaman or something, and then I come back in with this, and I'm like, hey, 2 Phantoms, and I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. It's like she looks cool with the ponytail sticking out of the back. This would be fun.
So is that Nate Cosby then, who's sort of driving that whole overarching arc and directing traffic in that way, or how much?
Well, he's not telling people what to write. He's just asking them how they think it could go, and then giving his take on and I'm trying. King Features was actually pretty accommodating. They weren't making us give them a lot of notes or anything, because they always have what they probably consider the real version, the prime version, which is the newspaper stuff. They can kind of let the comics experiment with things more, and then if they like it, they bring it back in. Like I also wrote a Flash Gordon meets the Archie gang, the Riverdale kids, thing that started being drawn by Dan Parent, but I think it got put on hold, and I think they've still got it. And like that even though it's a different company and everything, he's wearing the same costume that we have him wear in our series. And it's funny because apparently they named that costume the Parker Flash. And I was like, oh, cool. My name got in the like when he wears a certain costume, my name gets used. It was like, that made me feel happy. And I can throw it at Evan Shaner and say, hey, they used my name, Evan.
It is a good last name.
There we go. Back to the booze. He just can't give it up. Yeah, Jesse's got some cool drawing in here. It's it was rough last year when he died. I don't know. Now I'm wondering where all this art ended up too, by the way. We've got a lot of it at the studio and we're scanning it. And we're probably going to end up sending it to the Museum of Cartoon Art in San Francisco.
Oh, that's good.
But I didn't see if we had all these pages. He may have sold a lot of them. I don't know.
So what about Mark? Did he draw his pages pen and paper as well, do you know, or was that all digital stuff?
I think he was doing a mix.
I thought I heard a podcast that he did it on the computer.
He may have done mostly. I thought he did some on real paper. I always advise everybody, like, yeah, I know you can move faster doing it digitally, but on some of these splashes, don't hurt yourself. Do it on paper so you can sell it because collectors want this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Jeff Weigel has said stuff along those lines. He talks about not wanting to leave money on the table.
Exactly. And I even try to work it into scripts sometime. Like, here's a good splash. You'll probably want to do this in real life.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think all three of us have got original art that we have brought and stuff like that. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it used to work out great for me when everybody had to do it on the original page, and then a lot of times artists would give me a page from the book, and now it's like there's less opportunity for that, so I get less original art.
Just mindful of time and all that. Guys, you got any other questions? I'm just quickly going to go through the run
Bring
sheet.
it on, man.
See if there's any questions. Oh, you were talking about the King's Cross being a little bit different. The giant tarantulas formed by the drowned apes. That's
the weirdest thing.
I'm glad you think that. I reread that and I'm going, what? Where does this come from?
It is written well though, because it sets
Yeah.
up. You realize a beat before you see it that, oh no, the drowned. You realize that the drowned apes are about to come back to life. You don't realize they're going to form a giant spider.
That was with the beef jerky that started to walk.
Yeah.
Where was it? I think it was in this one. Yeah, you get the gopher ape. So I must admit, I'm not a huge Flash Gordon. I haven't read much Flash Gordon. Is a gopher ape something in Flash Gordon, or is that just from your imagination?
I'm thinking this was a Jesse thing, actually,
Okay.
because it even seems weird by my standards.
It's either giving him the credit or giving him the blame. It's
Yeah, either way, because it's cool and it's weird, so it's both.
Yeah.
The little
this
beef
is it
jerky
here.
thing coming alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Did I just write like, okay, and some weird threats happen, and then that's what he came up with? Like, look, they're holding the jerky creature on her hand, and this just seems like an LSD trip right here. It's so strange.
So could
This
you-
actually could have been me though. I'll do this to people sometimes.
I'm trying to imagine being
Because I might, you know what? It probably was me because I was probably thinking of like, did you guys have, like I did when I was a kid? It was a barrel full of monkeys.
yeah.
And it was this plastic barrel and all these little monkeys, and you'd try to pull them out, linking them all together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that seemed like the inspiration for this. Again, I wish I hadn't lost so many of my old scripts, because then I could look back and try to reverse engineer where all this stuff came from.
So you've made mention a couple of times that Jesse did the writing and you did the plotting. Could you just explain that to us as well? So what was the process behind that?
Yeah,
Because
I think
I think
I did a rough outline of how the story could go. I was trying to give him room because I wanted Dynamite to see that besides being a good artist, he was a good writer too. So I was, if I'm remembering right, and again, I'm a unreliable narrator, but you got to just go with it because I'm your guest. So I think I was probably doing the outline, getting it okayed, and then kind of doing a sort of page by page sort of synopsis that, like, not going into great detail because I didn't want to suffocate and like give Jesse no room to do what he does, Also, I knew he was going to I vaguely remember doing a sketch of this page though, with him a stick flash on a lot of creatures. And I liked, because the inset panel being a triangle, inverted triangles, a me sort of thing.
It works well with the wings. Kind of.
That looks like, it looks, the way Jesse did it looks like a Magnolia piece.
So Jesse is, for those who don't know, Jesse is the artist, correct? So you've done, I guess, plots of the pages, and then he's drawn it and created more of the story around your plots.
Yeah, well, he would probably then do a more, if I'm remembering right, he then did a more thorough script that he probably showed the editor.
Yeah. And
then I went through it, and it's kind of treating me like the showrunner, I guess, if it were a TV show. And I probably just went through and said, okay, this all works. Maybe change this. This is maybe a little out of character for this, something like that. And that was probably as much as I was doing at that point, just making sure there was story logic and trying to get the beats all to make sense and to progress nicely as they kind of go literally storm the castle. And then literally storm it with Prince Valiant and a bunch of knights.
Yeah, I must admit, it, Prince Valiant probably didn't work with King's Watch, but I think it works with this one. And it was nice
Yeah,
to
well,
see.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
That it's all about tone, and the kind of slightly wackier tone of this one lets you get away with that.
Yeah.
And in King's Watch, it was just, I don't think, you're right, I don't think it would have worked.
Yeah, and because we got that when I think it was the King series where you had the 5, so you had Flash, the Phantom, Mandrake, Jungle Jim, and Prince Valiant. It was nice how they got to introduce from the 3 to the 5, and then we kind of get to see him again with the ending.
I mean, if I were going to go full, just using whatever roster, I'd obviously bring Popeye into it because, I mean, no one kicks ass harder than Popeye. I mean, he literally can beat up anybody.
You're not getting away with
it would make it too easy for him.
Well, Popeye was around.
Awesome. Any other questions, guys?
No, I don't have any other questions. Like I was just, I guess, I would ask: were you happy with the way that the whole series? Like, I don't know if you were showrunner, to use your term, for the whole thing, Jeff. But Phantom fans really liked King's Watch, as we've said, and then people from a Phantom point of view probably started to drift away from it after that. To be honest, were you happy with the way that the whole series arc went? Yeah.
Oh, for Cross or for all of it or what?
Well, I suppose you can only really reflect on your own.
Yeah, I can't. Otherwise, I'm put in the ugly position of I didn't like the way so and so did things after I left, and I'm not going to do that. But I mean, of course, I always like my stuff better. But I'm an egomaniac. No, but I was. I mean, I will say I was. For the ones I, of course, paid the most attention to, which was King's Watch and Flash Gordon, I was extremely happy. I was surprised how much they let me do of what I wanted to do. They were actually very open with it. I think Dynamite might have suggested a couple of things that I ignored. It's like, no, I'm not doing that. It's like, because I wanted to do right by these kind of 3 prime characters who essentially influence all of comics. I feel like you got to see why they matter and why they're so important and come away, because it's really unfair when people come in and go, oh yeah, there's Mandrake, he's like Doctor Strange, when it's no, it's the other way around. Everybody's like Mandrake. Everybody's like the Phantom. Everybody's like Flash. They're not it's like they're
not rip-offs. The others are rip-offs.
Yeah, they're essentially gods, and the rest are just kind of
imitations.
Well, not even that. I'm thinking in terms of the Greek myths, and the others are like demigods that come out of them. That was beautiful, wasn't it? But I guess I always try to tell a little story in my head that's just for me, that runs alongside the main story I'm telling, and that's probably the kind of thing I was thinking at the time of just how to keep them feeling iconic. The interesting thing is people get worried when they're messing with big icons like this, and they tend to have nothing bad happen to them and dehumanize them. They don't get to be human. They get too removed, and all that does is make readers not care about them. You've got to still somehow find a way to keep them very human and have the stakes feel real. Like, the Phantom can die, and Flash has to leave, and Mandrake loses his love and has her become his greatest villain. Everybody kind of ends on a down note, really, despite the fact that it's a huge win for the planet. So that feels like a fair trade. You feel like, oh yeah, that wasn't easy for any of these people. You know,
Mm.
Yeah. Well, like I said before, you're seeing it in movies now. This was 10 years before the movies. Like even in the latest one, you got Spider-Man. He had to give up his, his love.
Hey, don't say anything. I haven't watched it.
Oh, you haven't
Yeah,
seen it
spoilers
yet?
here.
Yeah, spoilers.
Oh,
Right?
mate, it's
Don't
been
want to
out.
spoil
It's
the
been out for
7-year-old
long
comic
enough.
book series, Jerome. But hang
Really,
on.
how have you waited this long, though?
Because of COVID and we can't get to the cinema.
But no, it's been really it's been fun talking to you, Jeff, and being able to go back over and read the series and stuff like that. If I got one question, if Jen didn't happen, what was your vision for how Lothar was going to find the missing Walker? Did you have that story?
I didn't have a specific thing, but I felt like he was going to have to travel the world, and of course it would be a whole journey quest sort of thing, just getting to that point, you know. Like he wasn't just going to show up at his graduation and go, "Guess what? Here's the skull ring," you know. The hit people with it, bad people. That's as far as I had kind of entertained. I don't, you don't want to try to think of things that you might not be doing and then spend a lot of energy on it, and then you're just depressed that you didn't get to do it.
Yeah.
But I did kind of think, well, Lothar's probably going to have to solve some riddles, just go busting through people and try to find out what's happened. Like, why isn't this kid where he's supposed to be? And how old is he? What is he, like 24 now? You know, he's got to become the Phantom. You know, is Lothar going to then train him? What's he going to do? I was thinking a little bit about it, but I wasn't nailing it down. Because again, you got to get a story to feel like it really has its own life and energy. You can't plot things to an inch of their life. You gotta leave the plot. In my mind, I don't know how much you guys write, but you got to leave the plot a little fluid, so the characters have room to move around and make their own choices within it, and surprise you, hopefully, because it always gets better when that happens. Whenever the characters do something you didn't see coming, you go, "Oh, it's like a muse." It's you can see where people got the idea of a muse from. You know, it's like this thing's coming to me, and I'm just essentially transcribing this story. But I love when that happens, because then I feel like I'm onto something. You know, it feels less artificial. I'm not like taking little action figures and pushing them around on a chessboard. You don't want that to happen. It's like I think plenty of people know, especially from big event stories, when the writer is doing that and you're like, all these characters are acting out of character to make the plot advance. You know, you've got to advance the plot.
Yeah,
I've just been watching the sore nerve there.
Yeah, I've just been watching the Titans show on Netflix, and I don't know if any of you guys. I've just started watching season 3, and the fella playing Batman, or Bruce Wayne, does something completely out of character for Batman / Bruce Wayne. That hopefully they can fix this up, because that was not right. And what happened next was good, but that was so out of Batman character from what and I'm not a huge Batman guy, but from what I know of him, that just seemed completely out of character, and just threw and like, it's not thrown in a good way, just thrown in. Why the hell did you make him do that for?
Yeah, well, I've felt that pain too, so I hear you. And that's the thing I try to avoid. I just want people to be in character, and I want their actions to come from character, not because they all feel like this is the part of the story where we have to do this now. That's just, oh God, that'll just take the life out of it for me.
Well,
it's a little puzzle solving, and then a little like letting your subconscious work on it and getting the characters to come to life in your head so that they'll write the story for you. So, but do I split the money with them? No. Besides, all those characters are rich anyway.
Yeah, that's it. Well, we thank you for your work on the Phantom, on the King's Cross and King's Watch,
Thank you.
and Flash Gordon for Dynamite. We've discussed it quite a fair bit on our podcast throughout the years. I think this is episode 210, so there's been a few episodes before that. Before we do go, if people want to follow your stuff? You made mention of the Kickstarter that you've been doing before as well. What's the best way for people to be able to follow you on social media? Is it Twitter or?
Yeah, thank you for asking. It is, on Twitter, I am just Jeff Parker, just like my name spelled here. And my website is jeffparkerwrites.com. And if you go there, you can sign up for the newsletter, and don't worry, I don't write a lot of them, so you're not going to get inundated with these things. But I'll let you know when I'm working on stuff so you don't miss it. And if on Twitter you want to see me, post my Wordle score, I'll do that. And and rant about the state of the world. Please come on in.
No
Well,
worries.
Jeff, I think if you ever do decide to work on that period Phantom piece you're talking about, like a swashbuckling story just sent in the 1700s or whatever, we can put you in touch with the editorial team, either in Sweden who love those stories or even in Australia. So if you've got a story idea, you could pitch it.
Oh, well, thank you. I hope to, when we're all traveling again, to come to both countries. So that would be fun for me. Thank you for having me on. This looks like a great show you've got here. It's I really appreciate it. It's and thanks for bringing up thoughtful points to talk about. This was fun.
No worries. Well, thank you for joining us, and we're glad that you enjoyed it as well. For those who haven't listened to us before, you can find us on chroniclechamber.com. Our email is chroniclechamber@gmail.com. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Player FM, all the Android apps, and we're also on YouTube as well. So make sure you subscribe, give us a review, and all that type of stuff as well. That'd be greatly appreciated. We're also on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. So thank you for listening to us. Thank you, Jeff, for joining us. Stephen and Dan, we thank you as always. And from us, happy Phantoming.
Happy Phantoming, everyone.
Happy Phantoming. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
He said, I'm mad, I must eradicate piracy, injustice, and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die. The Phantom! The ghost who walks. The Phantom. Enemies beware. The Phantom's always there, but you won't find the Phantom. He fights